Welcome to episode 17 of The Evidence Room. Inside every investigation, the truth is hidden in the evidence. Tonight, we return to Australia, our second case in the country following the backpacker murders, to examine a crime that raised serious questions about warning signs, escalation, and how far violence can go when it's ignored.
It's quite a heavy one tonight.
It really is, and I have to tell you, stepping into this deep dive, it feels less like examining a criminal record and more like reading, a horror movie script.
Yeah.
It reads like this dark, macabre piece of fiction that reality somehow just permitted to occur.
Allowed to happen, right.
Exactly. So we are setting out on a mission tonight with you, the listener, to explore the psychological escalation and the profound legal shockwaves of Katherine Knight.
It's the kind of story that really forces you to ask how a person crosses so many lines of human decency.
Yeah.
And maybe more importantly, how an entire community can just watch it happen in slow motion.
Yeah.
Because it really does challenge our baseline assumptions about human nature. Well, we like to think there is an absolute limit to the cruelty a person can inflict, especially someone living a seemingly ordinary life in a small rural town.
Right, just a regular person.
But tonight, we're looking at an individual who systematically dismantled every social, moral, and psychological boundary we have.
Every single one.
Yeah. And what's truly terrifying is that she didn't hide who she was, at all. The warning signs weren't subtle. They were glaring, public, and incredibly violent.
So let's get into it. Katherine Knight was born in 1955 in Tenterfield, New South Wales. She was one of a set of twin girls.
Right.
And her early life was just defined by extreme dysfunction. Like, her father was a violently abusive alcoholic.
Which is unfortunately common in these profiles, but the mother's role here is equally disturbing.
Oh, absolutely.
She would openly share these highly inappropriate, intimate details of her sex life with her daughters.
Just completely disregarding any boundaries.
Exactly. Actively teaching them to harbor this deep-seated hatred of men. She essentially conditioned Katherine to believe that abuse was just a normal part of life that you just endure.
You just deal with it.
Yeah, that environment is where violence became her primary currency of communication.
And you really see a very extreme dual nature develop in Katherine early on, right? Like, at school in Muswell Brook, she was a vicious bully.
Oh, severely.
Yeah.
She would stand over smaller kids. She even assaulted a classmate with a weapon.
A weapon at school. But then, strangely enough, when she wasn't in this blind rage, she could flip a switch.
Become the model student.
Right. She would even win good behavior awards.
Which is wild.
It is. And that capacity to just turn the rage off and on, I feel like that is a crucial piece of the puzzle. Because she wasn't just a chaotic mess. She was compartmentalizing.
Highly adaptable when she needed to be.
Exactly. So she leaves school at 15. Completely illiterate, to take what she literally called her dream job at the local abattoir in Aberdeen.
The slaughterhouse.
Yeah. And she quickly advanced to boning carcasses, becoming incredibly skilled with butcher knives.
Very proficient.
She actually received her own set of razor-sharp knives, and this is the part that gets me. She kept them hanging right above her bed at home.
Right over where she slept.
Yeah. And this is where I want to stop and challenge a narrative that I often see in true crime.
Okay.
Sometimes people try to frame everything a violent person does as a childhood trauma response.
Right, the coping mechanism defense.
Exactly. But I am really struggling with that here. Like, is sleeping beneath a rack of butcher knives a trauma response? Or is that an early sign of a predator's macabre obsession with flesh?
It feels very different.
It feels like a serial killer's trophy room, not a security blanket.
I agree completely. I mean, while drama can certainly fracture a developing mind, hanging lethal weapons over your bed crosses a massive line.
Right.
You move from self-protection into, the idolization of violence. It suggests a deep comfort with and a reliance on the literal tools of slaughter.
Yeah, she wasn't hiding those knives under her mattress so she could feel safe in the dark.
No, she was displaying them openly. It was a statement of power and control.
And as she moved into adulthood, that normalization of butchery began to manifest directly in her intimate relationships.
Very quickly.
So in 1974, she marries a man named David Kellett. And even her own mother warned David on their wedding day.
Which is saying something, considering the mother.
Right. She essentially told him, watch out, she'll kill you.
A literal warning.
And Katherine practically proved her right immediately. On their wedding night, she attempted to strangle him simply because he fell asleep.
Just for falling asleep. And the marriage quickly devolved into a nightmare of domestic abuse.
It was relentless.
She fractured his skull with a frying pan.
A frying pan?
Yeah, just because he came home late from a darts competition. But the incident that really demonstrates her complete lack of boundaries, like total disregard for human life, happened in 1976.
Yes. She had just had a baby. And David had actually fled to Queensland to escape the relentless abuse.
He ran for his life.
He did. So Katherine took her 2-month-old baby and literally placed the child on the active train tracks.
Her own baby.
Yes. And the baby was only saved because a homeless man, known locally as Old Ted, just happened to be foraging nearby.
Thank God for him.
Seriously. He pulled the child off the tracks minutes before a train came through. And she didn't even stop there.
No, she escalated.
She took an axe into town, threatened to kill several people, and later took a young boy hostage with a knife at a petrol station.
A completely random child.
Until police had to literally fight her off with brooms.
It's just sheer chaos. And she was institutionalized at Morset Psychiatric Hospital after that.
Which makes sense.
But the shocker is that she was quickly released. Released right back out into the public.
And this is where I get completely stuck. I think about what this means for you listening right now. How does a town see a woman put an infant on active train tracks, take a child hostage with a knife, and just shrug it off as erratic behavior?
It's hard to fathom.
It's not just ignoring a problem. It's like watching someone pour gasoline all over a house and the whole town collectively agrees to call it landscaping just so nobody has to take the hose away.
That is a perfect way to describe communal denial. It's a phenomenon we actually see quite often in small communities dealing with highly volatile individuals.
Oh, really? Just pretending it's not happening.
Well, when someone's behavior is so extreme, like so terrifyingly far outside the bounds of normal social conduct, people often normalize it as a coping mechanism.
Because the alternative is too scary.
Exactly. If they admit how dangerous she truly is, they have a moral obligation to intervene.
Oh, right.
By reducing her lethal intent to just a personality quirk, saying, oh, that's just Katherine being Katherine. The community basically absolves itself of the burden of responsibility.
Wow. And because society essentially gave her a pass, the violence evolved.
It always does.
It escalated from these reactive outbursts into calculated psychological warfare. So in the late 80s, she gets into a relationship with a miner named David Saunders.
Right.
She decorated their shared home by covering every inch of the walls and ceilings with animal skins, skulls, machetes, and rusty animal traps.
Everywhere you look.
It was designed to intimidate.
It was a very deliberate curation of terror, but the defining moment with Saunders was the dingo pup incident.
Oh, this part is just...
It's horrific.
Yeah.
She grabbed his 2-month-old dingo pup and slit its throat right in front of him.
Right in front of him.
And she did it simply as a warning of what would happen if he ever cheated on her.
That is such a massive shift in methodology. I mean, she wasn't just throwing a frying pan in a fit of rage because he came home late anymore.
Well, this was planned.
She killed a beloved pet to demand total, paralyzing submission. She was telling him, I have absolute power over life and death in this house, and your emotional attachments mean absolutely nothing to me.
Exactly. It's a textbook tactic of extreme coercive control.
But then she flips the script in a way that just completely baffles me.
The AVO.
Yes. When Saunders finally went into hiding to escape her, Katherine went to the police and took out an apprehended violence order, an AVO, against him.
Yeah.
She got a restraining order against the man she was relentlessly terrorizing. I just don't understand how the legal system allows an abuser to weaponize the courts like that.
So there is actually a psychological term for this specific tactic.
What is it?
It's called DARVO.
Where?
DARVO. It stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender.
Reverse victim and offender, wow.
Yeah. By being the first to run to the police and file a legal order, she manipulated the system to legitimize herself as the victim.
That is so calculated.
It is devastatingly effective because it isolates the actual victim even further. Suddenly, the legal system is actively working against them.
You can't even go to the cops for help anymore.
Right. It demonstrates a chilling level of cunning. She understood the rules of society just enough to subvert them for her own predatory ends.
Which sets the stage for the catastrophic final relationship. Enter John Price, known as Pricey, in 1995.
Yes.
He was a father of 3, well-liked, working at the local mines. And at first, things seemed relatively normal, but the toxic dynamic quickly took over.
As it always did with her.
In 1998, after he refused to marry her, Katherine retaliated in the most vindictive way possible.
Taking his job.
Right. She filmed some out-of-date medical kits he had scavenged from the company rubbish tip, sent the tape to his boss, and got him fired from a job he had held for 17 years.
She was dismantling his life piece by piece.
Just tearing it down.
Taking away his livelihood was just another way to isolate him and assert total dominance.
So let's fast forward to February 2000. Price is finally fed up. He kicks her out of his house after she literally stabs him in the chest during an argument.
An actual stab wound.
Yes. He goes to the magistrate and secures his own AVO against her to protect himself and his kids. He is terrified. He tells his coworkers, "If I don't come to work tomorrow, she murdered me."
He knew. He knew exactly what she was capable of.
Yeah.
He wasn't being dramatic. He was predicting his own demise based on years of escalating data.
So we look at her preparation on that day, February 29th. She sends Price's kids away for the night to a friend's house so they won't be there.
Clearing the board.
She goes into town and buys new black lingerie. She records a makeshift video, Will leaving her belongings to her own children.
They say she knew this was the end.
Exactly. Then she breaks into his house, waits for him, initiates sex with him, and then waits for him to fall asleep.
Just lying in wait.
This thoroughly dismantles any legal defense of a crime of passion. This was a methodical hunt.
Completely premeditated.
But I keep thinking about that restraining order. It seems like that piece of paper didn't protect him at all. It actually provoked her.
Right.
How does an AVO function in the mind of someone who possesses zero respect for human boundaries?
Well, for individuals with extreme antisocial personalities, a restraining order is often interpreted not as a deterrent, but as the ultimate insult.
Like a challenge.
Yes. For someone like Katherine, who operated on absolute control and possession, Price seeking legal protection was the ultimate act of defiance.
Wow.
The AVO didn't create a barrier, it created a trigger. It signaled to her that she was losing control over her possession. Her meticulous preparation, clearing the house of the children, buying the lingerie, recording the video, shows that she had moved entirely past anger and into the cold, methodical execution of a punishment.
So the morning of March 1st, 2000, a neighbor and a coworker realize Price hasn't left for work.
They knew to check on him.
Right, because of what he said. They see blood on the front door and the police are called. And what they find, it simply defies human comprehension.
The crime scene told a story of a desperate fight for survival.
Yeah.
The blood trail down the hallway indicated Price had woken up as he was being stabbed. He tried to turn on the light.
He fought back.
He fought for his life, even making it to the front door before being dragged back inside.
And then the abject horror inside the house.
It's hard to even describe.
Price's body had been expertly skinned. The entire skin in one single piece was hanging on a meat hook from the architrave of the lounge room door.
And the scene in the kitchen was equally incomprehensible.
God.
His decapitated head was cooking in a pot of vegetables on the stove. Slices of flesh from his body had been baked and plated at the dinner table, set with vindictive handwritten notes addressed to his two children.
That is just, it's beyond evil.
And Katherine Knight herself was found asleep in the bedroom, comatose from taking a large number of pills.
I know the evidence suggested Knight was allegedly inspired by a violent horror film she had seen, but I am trying to wrap my head around what walking into that house does to a seasoned investigator.
Yeah, it changes them.
Because police are trained for violence, obviously, but several officers required long-term stress leave after this. Unpack that for us. What happens to the psyche of a veteran cop when a cinematic nightmare is perfectly replicated in reality?
It causes a profound psychological fracture. Law enforcement officers are trained to deal with, human violence.
Right, robberies, gang violence.
Robberies gone wrong. Standard domestic homicides. There is a terrible but understandable logic to those crimes.
A motive you can at least process.
Exactly. But what Knight did crossed the boundary from crime into absolute defilement. The skinning of a human being, the preparation for cannibalism. These are the most ancient, deeply ingrained taboos in the human psyche. When an investigator walks into a scene that perfectly mimics a slasher film, it shatters their cognitive schema.
They just can't process it.
The environment is so polluted by sheer malevolence that the human mind simply cannot categorize it. It's not just a crime scene anymore. It's a theater of the grotesque. They were forced to confront a reality that shouldn't exist outside of a nightmare.
And the contrast in her behavior that morning is incredibly jarring to me. Like, the autopsy showed Price suffered 37 stab wounds.
37, yeah.
She used her abattoir skills with what the coroner called considerable expertise to skin him.
Okay.
It was a visceral, bloody frenzy.
Yes.
Yet, later that very same morning, before taking those pills, she calmly walked into town, went to an ATM, and withdrew $1,000 from Price's account.
Just ran an errand.
Right. Later on, her defense tried to claim complete amnesia. She claimed she dissociated and remembered nothing after having sex.
The dissociation defense.
Yeah, I hear that term thrown around a lot, dissociative states. How do forensic psychologists actually prove she wasn't just having a complete mental break?
That's where we look at executive function.
Okay.
Genuine dissociation usually involves a complete cognitive break, right? A fragmentation of identity where the person truly loses touch with reality.
So they wouldn't be coordinated.
Exactly. Their actions in that state are chaotic, unstructured, and often lack a clear goal. But look at Knight's actions. The skinning required a steady hand and methodical focus over a sustained period of around 40 minutes.
Wow, 40 minutes.
The cooking involved peeling vegetables, turning on the stove, and setting a table. And then the ATM withdrawal required remembering a specific peon and executing a sequential financial transaction.
You can't do that if you're out of your mind.
These are goal-directed, highly structured behaviors. They require cognition, volition, and calm. You simply cannot expertly butcher a body and then successfully navigate an ATM menu if you are in a completely fractured fugue state.
It's impossible.
The amnesia claim was viewed as a highly calculated, self-serving mechanism to avoid responsibility.
Which brings us to the trial and its massive legal significance. Her legal team initially planned to argue that amnesia defense.
Right.
But then, right after the jury prospects were read the horrific details of what they would have to look at, Knight suddenly pleaded guilty.
Which is fortunate, because it spared the jury from having to view the graphic evidence.
Absolutely. The psychological assessments diagnosed her with borderline personality disorder, but crucially, she was deemed entirely sane, entirely cunning, and fully aware of her actions.
Yes, and Justice O'Keefe's sentencing remarks were historic.
They really were.
He explicitly contrasted the abject terror of John Price's final moments with the utter enjoyment Katherine Knight derived from the killing and the defilement.
Utter enjoyment, that's chilling.
He sentenced her to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, and her papers were marked never to be released.
She became the first woman in Australian history to receive that sentence.
The very first.
And that opens up a fascinating angle on legal philosophy. Historically, the justice system and society at large really tries to frame female killers in one of two ways.
Right, the mad or sad dichotomy.
Exactly. They are either passive victims of circumstance, pushed to the brink by an abusive man, or they are mad, suffering from hysteria or severe mental illness.
Yeah.
But Knight's sheer undeniable agency and her calculated malevolence essentially broke the legal system's traditional gender assumptions, didn't it?
It completely shattered them. The legal system traditionally has struggled to comprehend female violence that isn't defensive or born of madness.
As it doesn't fit the narrative.
Right. The concept of a female predator, someone who kills for control, revenge, and sadistic pleasure, disrupts deeply held cultural narratives about femininity and nurturing.
And she used those nurturing symbols.
She weaponized the domestic sphere, she used the kitchen, she used cooking, she literally set the table for a family meal. But she inverted all of those nurturing acts into instruments of ultimate defilement.
Wow, that is such a profound way to look at it.
By recognizing her sanity and her cunning, the court was forced to acknowledge that pure instrumental wickedness is not exclusively male. The sentence of never to be released was society's declaration that her actions defied all traditional categories of mitigation.
In 2006, she actually appealed that life sentence, arguing it was too severe.
Unbelievable.
Right. The appellate justices dismissed it entirely, with one stating the crime was almost beyond contemplation in a civilized society.
Which is putting it mildly.
So she remains in Silverwater Women's Correctional Center today, and this is the part that truly leaves me in disbelief.
Her life in prison.
Yes. Reports indicate she holds no violent record in prison. She acts as a mediator for disputes among inmates. The other prisoners actually call her the Nana.
Well, the Nana.
Now, some might call that rehabilitation, but I don't buy it for a second.
Neither do I.
Isn't it far more likely that a highly controlling territorial predator simply thrives when placed in an environment of ultimate, rigid, structured control?
That is the prevailing theory among behavioral analysts.
Makes sense.
Prison is an ecosystem with very clear hierarchies, strict routines, and unambiguous rules.
Everyone knows their place.
Exactly. For someone with Knight's psychological profile, an environment where everyone's status is permanently defined and controlled can actually reduce the interpersonal friction that triggers their violence.
Because the control is already established for her.
She doesn't have to fight for control in prison. The control is systemic and guaranteed. By adopting the Nana persona, she establishes a position of soft power and influence within that hierarchy.
So it's a strategy.
It's not rehabilitation in the sense of moral awakening or newly discovered empathy. It's adaptation. A predator has simply found a new way to thrive in a different ecosystem.
Wow. So if we bring this deep dive back to our own lives, the ultimate lesson here isn't just about the gruesome details of a crime.
No, it's bigger than that.
It's about the terrifying consequences of communal denial. An entire town watched a woman leave a baby on active train tracks, watched her slaughter pets, watched her physically terrorize multiple partners, and repeatedly dismissed it.
They chose to look away.
That's just Catherine. She's just got a temper. We rely so heavily on the social contract, our baseline assumption that there are lines a human being simply won't cross. But what happens when that social contract is weaponized against us by someone who recognizes no lines at all?
It forces us to realize that our collective desire to look the other way, to avoid getting involved in messy, domestic issues, provides the exact camouflage these individuals need to escalate their control.
That's the scariest part.
When we ignore the blazing red flags because they make us uncomfortable, we're inadvertently giving permission for the violence to grow.
Exactly. The ticking bomb doesn't magically become a loud clock just because you decide to ignore the countdown.
Well said.
Thanks for listening to The Evidence Room. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe for more true crime investigations from around the world. Remember, some cases remain unsolved, but the evidence always tells a story.